Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Health Made Simple Show. I'm your host, Dr. Bart, and today, another great conversation, another great podcast for you. And today, I'm going to push you a little bit, push your mind to lean into a conversation that we don't often have here on the Health Made Simple Show. Typically, we're really having a lot of conversations about health, your well-being, lifestyle, all of those good things. And today, we're going to bring into that category, which certainly is a massive part of that category, is your wealth. And I'm going to start off with just asking you the question: what's more important to you? What would you rather have, your health or your wealth? And as you ponder on that thought for just a moment here, I'm going to back it up and say this. There's really only one answer, one correct answer to that question. And you guys probably know the answer to that question already. And the answer is both. Is there one of them that we could live with and without the other? The answer is yes. The only one that we can deal without is our wealth, but you could still be alive. You could still be a healthy individual, but you can't do without your health. And so this podcast is really being brought to you after roughly 30 years in the healthcare world, we'll call it in healthcare space, and me just being able to sit back and observe what takes place. And so I'm getting in a phase, if you want to call it kind of a tenure of my life, where I'm 55 years old and I'm starting to look a little bit farther down the road than maybe I did 10 years ago. Before, it was just kind of this way off target. What about retirement? What about, is there going to be a time where my body doesn't perform quite as well as it does today? Are things going to change? And this is a tough conversation for us to hear, but I wish, like, my prayer would be this: if I had the opportunity to take every 25 and 35-year-old person out there, would be to shake them and somehow shake into them this magic understanding that you have an incredible opportunity right here, right now, to start to do things on a daily basis with your lifestyle for both your health and your wealth that continuously create what we call compounding interest. So when you get a little bit older, you get a little bit farther down in your life, that you have already built up a mountain, a huge mountain of both health and wealth. With that said, there are some real things that we have to have conversations about, because sometimes people say, no, I don't even plan on retiring. I'm just going to continue to work. So be it. Maybe you are, but here's some realities. Age does happen. And with age, some real things happen. So that's number one. Age does happen. We're all going to age. And there are diminishing situations. There are diminishing results that we're going to get with our physical bodies. Your detox pathways will slow down. Your mental acuity will change. This doesn't make it bad or good. It's just a reality. Our physical bodies will change. That's why we don't see 80-year-olds playing running back in the NFL, because our physical bodies are going to change. It doesn't mean they're useless. It doesn't mean grandpa isn't awesome at 80, 90, 100 years old. It means that they change, which also means that if your health starts to diminish a single day earlier than it's supposed to, your ability to produce in life will also diminish. And that is roughly the reason there's an age 65 that most people shoot for retirement, because the ability to produce on a daily basis is diminished. Now, if you want to be an outlier and you love what you do, or you may need to continue to do what you do, because maybe you're not prepared for retirement. Maybe it's because life has become just so expensive. Things cost more. Maybe you have more desires. Maybe you have more kids than you thought, more bills, whatever it may be. Then one of the things that we can do to counteract that is to take better care of ourselves. And if I could shake everybody, whether you're at 25, 35, 45, 55, 65, 75, is to know now there is a formula for both generating health and wealth. And today I'm going to walk you through some of those things. And with that being said, sometimes we have to have conversations that are a little bit uncomfortable. We'll do that. I'll just spend a little bit of time on that. Specifically, we have to address some things that are coming. Meaning, when it comes to our health, there is this group of diseases I call the 4 horsemen of disease. They're coming. I'm going to spend just a moment having that conversation. And I've had that conversation on this podcast before, and I am not one who loves to beat down and kind of fear monger everyone about health diseases and not health disease, but diseases that are coming our way. But yes, it is important that we're at least privy to what's coming our way so we can prepare ourselves to be able to handle those things the best when they come down the road. This podcast might seem like I jump all over the place. It's because this is going to be as kind of real and raw. I don't really have any notes. I don't have any planned outline here, but I kind of know where I want to bring you. And the first part of it, I'm going to say this, is that when I get a phone call And I get these phone calls, which seems to be on a weekly basis, from some of you, from my friends, from my family, from your family, etc. And the phone calls go something like this. Hey, Dr. Bart, my brother's wife got diagnosed with the boogly woogly disease, the XYZ. Can you help her? My first question is always this. I would say, what is your brother's wife's lifestyle? What is their daily approach? Are they investing on a daily basis into their health? That determines what we can and cannot do for that human being, because that tells me how well they're practiced, what reserves they have, and what we can do next. And the reason that I'm going to encourage all of you to continue to have a relentless pursuit of both your health and your wealth is because it gives you the power of choice. The more wealth you have, folks, the more options you're going to have. If you get faced with the boogly woogly, with one of the four horsemen of disease, the more wealth you have, the reality is fair, unfair, good, bad, whatever it may be, the more wealth you have, the more choices you can make. Same thing happens when you get faced with the boogly woogly, one of those four horsemen of disease, or want anything else. The more health you have in the bank, the more good lifestyle practices you currently have, gives you choices to go to that next extreme. And that is going to be the determining factor for most people. Most of the boogly wooglies out there, they have statistics. And unfortunately, we often Google them. We just got diagnosed with XYZ, and you quickly diagnose what's the lifespan of XYZ. And it gives you a statistic. And the goal is this: always be different than those people that they're getting the statistics from. Be the relentless one. Be the one that is relentlessly pursuing your health, your wealth, and I'm going to throw one more in there, your relationships. Now, with that being said, I'm going to give you some other commonalities that if anyone is telling you other than what I'm about to share with you, walk away, leave them alone. If they're your coach, your advisor, your health coach, your financial advisor, any of those things, if they're saying something contrary to what I'm about to say, fire them. And that's three things. When it comes to being healthy, there's three things that are absolutely certainly to be true. It's going to be inconvenient regularly. This year, next year, the following year, it's going to continue to be inconvenient, meaning this: you're going to go to a birthday party and inconveniently have to say, no cake for me. It's going to be uncomfortable, meaning that there's going to be changes that need to happen. You're going to have to get up and exercise every day, regardless of your schedule, regardless of what your kids are doing, regardless of what your dogs are doing, regardless of the weather. You're still going to have to exercise on a regular basis. And then it's also going to be unfamiliar. And that's the challenge for a lot of us. The unfamiliar part is this: well, I've always done it this way. Well, you know what? Our bodies change. Our physiology changes. And therefore, as we age, we're going to have to do things that we haven't done before. What you're doing today, your exercise, how you move, how you eat, and how you think today is not going to be enough next year. You're going to have to do it better. And if anybody tells you, or they just try to dismiss it as this is just age, fire them immediately and go find someone who's going to speak honest with you, who's going to tell you the truth. Hey, listen, my friend, you're going to have to hunker down. And you're absolutely worth it. Make no mistake about it. You are absolutely worth working on your strength, working on your mobility, working on your stamina, cleaning up your diet a little, getting rid of the alcohol, going to bed on time, being in circadian rhythm, getting good thoughts, having prayer, having meditation in your life. You're worthy of all those great things. And here's the other, kind of the hard truth. In our country, the average man probably passes away. I know this has changed a little bit, but the average man in our country dies at the age 75, give or take a couple of years. The average woman, maybe a couple of years older than that, maybe 78, 79 years old. That is the average man. Keep in mind the word that I just said there, that's average. What we also know through the data and the research is that the average person has what we call a decade of decline. And this should really kind of get your eyes to open up here. A decade of decline for the average person. So for the guy that's 75 years old, they start this decade of decline at age 65. And when that decade of decline begins, it means this. Really, the realistic part of it, you start to go to more doctor's visits. You start to have more symptoms, more misery in life, more things just not working like they used to, which means that your ability to participate in life starts to go downhill, and there's not much you can do about it. And that's a bummer. That means your ability to give, to love, to serve, to participate in life, to be creative, to go for the next thing. It starts to be diminished. You start to find yourself, instead of a yes man, to a no man. I can't do that. I can't go on that trip. I can't play that game anymore. I can't throw that ball. I can't pick up the kids. I'm too exhausted to go out. And so for someone like myself, I don't know how old you are listening to this, but just do some math. I'm 55 years old. So that means I got 1 decade. If I'm an average man, I have 1 decade. I'm 55 now. At the age 65, the decade of decline begins. And listen, that's not okay by me. And it should not be okay by you either. And so keep that in the back of your mind, whether or not you should be relentlessly pursuing better health today. So we do not want to be average. Now, unfortunately, if your participation in health right now, you think is pretty progressive, you go to your doc once a year and you get a checkup and they go, well, you know what, Bob, it looks like your blood pressure looks pretty good today. Your cholesterol is climbing up there a little bit. And let's go ahead and let's get you on this statin or maybe a little bit of low blood pressure medication, just real low as preventative. Folks, that is basically, that is the equivalent of using a credit card to pay for a credit card. And it doesn't make good sense. It fixes the moment. Yeah, sure, it feels good in the moment. Hey, my debt is paid. My blood pressure got lowered. My high cholesterol's got lowered for a moment. But it means that you not only have to pay it back, but you have to pay it back with interest. And that's a similarity when it comes to health and wealth. And listen, we know you've all heard about what we call compounding interest in wealth building. So if you're 35 years old, I'm going to run through some numbers. I am a numbers guy. I love numbers. These numbers won't be perfect, but I'll just give you a general idea of these. If you're 35 years old today and you start investing money, let's say $500 a month, and you just put it in the S&P 500, blindly, you get someone to just invest $500 a month, and every year you add 5%, assuming you're going to make a little bit more money each year. So $500 a month at age 35, that means in 30 years when you go to retire, you're going to have millions of dollars, probably $1.5 million to $2 million in the bank. It's just $500 a month. That's compounding interest. And let's just say you're like most people and you haven't done that. Like most people have not. And you wait until you're 55 years old. And there's a big point being made here. And you want to retire when you're 65. What does that mean? Can you retire when you're 65? Yes. It just means, and read between the lines here, if you want to retire when you're 65 and you didn't start until you're 55, it means you got to go in a lot bigger and a lot deeper than someone else. Meaning this, you can achieve it. Instead of $500 a month, it's probably 10 grand a month over the next 10 years, and you will have millions of dollars in the bank because you have to make up for time. And that is exactly the way it works with our health. If you wait down the road and you are finally diagnosed with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, whatever that might be, anything else out there, obesity, fatty liver disease, cancers, neurodegenerative diseases, whatever, type 2 diabetes, you wait until you are diagnosed with being broke. If you wait until that point, you have to go in and it's going to feel extreme. And listen, we do it all the time and it's possible. But know that that is what it's going to take. And the further you push it down the road, the more extreme and potentially the less likely it's going to happen. Because then you got to ask yourself, do I have the potential to invest $10,000 every single month? Not everyone has that. And the same thing comes when it comes to health. Do you have the resources in your physical body, the stamina, the good muscle, the good tissue? Do you have the immune system, the endocrine system, the circulatory system to go so far in that you can make drastic changes in a short period of time? So with that being said, no matter where you are, the game, when do you start? The answer is right here, right now. And I want to get very specifically what that means, because sometimes I share all that and the last thing I want you to do is be like, oh, bummer, I'm in trouble. That is not what I'm trying to do right here. So what I want you to take away from this is this. So whether you are doing it for your health or your wealth, because if a financial advisor was to sit down with you right now, the first question they would ask, they would collect data from you. The data they would collect wouldn't just be one thing. They wouldn't just say, hey, Bob, how much money do you make? They need that data, but that wouldn't be the only data. They would want all different types of data. They would say, well, how much do you earn on any given year? How much do you have in the bank? How much do you have in investments? How much is your mortgage? How much are your daily bills? How much are your fixed costs? How much are food supplies? How much are your vacations? How much are your kids' costs? They would want to know all of this data, and they'd put all of this data together. Then they'd create a strategy for you. Okay, here's what you got to do. Hey, listen, we haven't been investing for 40 years and you're just starting now. So this is going to hurt a little bit. Means you have to invest X, Y, Z. Means this. Something's got to go. Maybe the family vacation's got to be a trip to the woods instead of to Europe, right? So there's going to be adjustments that are going to be made. And again, that's where that conversation of when it gets down to health, well, listen, being healthy or wealthy, both of them are going to require a level of inconvenience, uncomfortable, and unfamiliar. But if you're in that category, you just kind of buckle up and be like, I got it. Okay, no big deal. I'm willing to do that for the outcome, meaning I'm pushing down the road instead of instant satisfaction, instant gratification, like putting things on a credit card and instantly getting rewarded for that. You push the outcome and the desires and the rewards down the road. Here's where my 30 years of experience have shown me that this is where the challenge is. Because the two things that keep us from being wealthy and healthy, unfortunately, both of them feel good when we're doing them. Let me explain this to you. So when you're out and you're like, man, I've worked hard and I want a new outfit. I've earned it. And you go out and you put that new outfit on your credit card. It feels good. And you put on those clothes and you feel good. You're looking good. You're confident. You're going out in your sexiest suit, your sexiest dress. And you're feeling good. I feel good. Yet you got to pay it back. So the long-term output means they not only got to pay it back, but you got to pay it back with interest. So the challenge financially is that often it does not hurt to go into debt. Physically, I mean emotionally and physically, the moment we're doing it, it actually feels good to go in debt. Now let's talk about your health. This is where it gets really tricky and really sneaky. Most of the things that are the most detrimental to our health when it comes to our health, if we just talked about nutrition, is where it gets really interesting. The things that feel the best, the most predictable things like food and alcohol that work every single time that we have them are the very things that are killing us slowly. So listen, we all know this, and I'll just say it again, that alcohol is a poison. It poisons every single cell in the human body. But here's the big challenge. It is so predictable, and it is so accurate, and it is so good at doing what we expect it to do, it's almost perfect. I mean, the moment you have your first sip, if you finish that first cocktail, that first beer, you very much can predict what number 1 does, what number 2 does, number 3, 4, 5, whatever it may be. Very predictable, very accurate, and very consistent. And that's where some of the challenges lie. And that's why I say it's going to be inconvenient, folks. It's going to be uncomfortable to choose no longer to have alcohol in your life. And at some point, I pray that you get to that spot. And not because alcohol is bad, no, but because you are good and you are worthy of every single day that your creator gave you. So to get up, clear mind, strong body, free spirit, every single day to be able to get up. And when we're inebriated, when we're hungover, when we're full of toxins, they interfere with that ability to have the free spirit, the clear mind, the strong body. In fact, that is what lets the darkness in. And the moment we can start to just say no to those things because we want the best version of ourselves to show up, that's when the light gets turned on. And so as we go here, data, let's switch this into what is it, the nuts and bolts of this mean for you with your health. Folks, I've said it before, but the fastest way to collect data is to know exactly where you are and what your history is kind of dragged forward is to make sure you do elaborate lab testing. That is in a very specific spot. It's like getting on a scale. Exactly what do I weigh today? Therefore, if I'm going to have an ideal goal of a weight loss, I know which direction I'm headed into, where I started and where I'm going. There are 4 horsemen of disease: cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, we'll call that metabolic disease, fatty liver, all of that stuff, cancer, and neurodegenerative diseases. So I'm going to make this quick, but I want to talk about each one of them just briefly. When it comes to cardiovascular disease, that's the heart attacks and the strokes. This is one of the biggest bummers for me because the heart is just a muscle. And I know some people are going to get mad at me for saying that. I know it's complicated. It's got a bunch of chambers, but it's a muscle. And if we have nutrient deficiencies, the muscle that works the most is going to break down the fastest. That's it. And that's what we see. Hands down. Every single heart case out there that I've ever seen, always involves some level of deficiency of magnesium. Magnesium always helps support the heart, no doubt about it. And I can go on and on. And then right next to that is your B vitamin. So there's vitamin and mineral deficiencies, almost always long periods of time that are broken down the way that the heart works. But cardiovascular disease kills over 900,000 people in our country every year. And this is just, it's kind of, the word I want to use is pathetic. It's not good. It's so avoidable, but it's coming our way. So for everyone listening to this, the 4 horsemen are heading your way. In fact, about 85 to 90% of Americans are going to be addressing one of the 4 horsemen. And there is one marker, and I'll get to that in just a moment, that actually is the only marker that links all 4 of these together. Not that that's the only marker you want. You want a whole bunch of them, but there's one that links them all together. The second one, type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes, fatty liver disease, obesity. Folks, this is, again, it's rampant. And this is very changeable for us. And again, our labs can show us the writing on the wall. We can test things like hemoglobin A1C. We can test things, blood glucose levels, fasting insulin levels, and a little bit more. And I'll share that in again just in a moment here. Cancer. Do we have a test that we test through blood for cancer? No, we do not. Are there markers, though, that show us what the writing on the wall? And the answer is yes. And so what does that mean? We're looking for inflammatory markers. We know that over long periods of time, the more inflamed you are, the more opportunity these cancer cells, these virus cells, bacteria have an opportunity to flourish in your body. So if we know in advance that there's damage, that there's inflammatory markers going on, if we see them today, we can then develop very specific strategies on how to remove these. So I will always anchor and go back and stand on the hill that says health is simple. I'm not saying it's easy, but the concepts of how the body heals is very simple. The power that made the body heals the body. That's how it happens. It doesn't happen any other way. And it always happens from the inside out. So from above down and from the inside out, the power that made the body heals the body. And our job is to remove the interference and supply the body with deficiencies. And when I say remove interference, get rid of the toxins. Fix the deficiencies, get rid of the toxins, and you'll be a healthy human being. Last but not least is the neurodegenerative diseases. And folks, this is the bummer. This is the Parkinson's, dementia, and Alzheimer's. And this is headed our way. I think it's 2Xing or 5Xing every year in terms of diagnosis in our country. That is an absolute bummer. And if any one of you have ever experienced anyone that has dealt with these, to me, this is the worst one of all because of just the diminishing presence of the individual that has them. One of those 3 neurodegenerative diseases, yet the care that it takes for the family to participate in trying to help that human being to stay on this earth, even though they may be mentally gone. It's just a brutal disease. And this is a 20 to 30 year disease, folks. So if you wait to do your preventative actions, if you wait to see if I got anything, especially if you have any family history of it, and you're waiting, unfortunately, when you first get diagnosed of it, unfortunately, then it's laws of diminishing results because at that point, even with as much great science and technology we rarely are seeing anything that is reversing any of those. We do see some slowing down, but not reversing. That being said, there is one marker that connects all of these, and that marker is called insulin resistance. Most likely, most of you listening to this have never had that tested, and it's okay. But you can get it tested. I'm not telling you only to get that one tested. We put together a panel, and I will make sure it's in your notes here today. Probably over the last 10 years, I've been kind of formulating the most elaborate, detailed panel that I could possibly come up with for myself, for my wife, for my family members, my practice members, people that I'm serving in our community. If I had a bunch of numbers, a bunch of data points, just like your financial advisor, who I said they want to know everything. They want to know your income, your investments, how much your dogs cost, how much your kids cost, how much you got packed away for a safety thing, how much your daily fixed costs, how much is your mortgage. They want to know everything. I want to do the same thing with your health. So I've come up with very specific markers. There's over 100 of them. So yes, there's a lot. It takes a lot of blood, but nonetheless, it gives me very specific markers. So I understand what's taking place with your endocrine system. I know your way your hormones are responding, but not just testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. All of those guys are very important. We also start to understand things like how is insulin responding? Your fasting insulin, hemoglobin A1C. We want to know the writing on the wall. And then we have other markers too. Your iron panel. We make sure we check your thyroid. All 9 markers, not just 1 or 2, folks. We got to check, see if there's any autoimmune conditions taking place in the background. We want to know your status of what we call omega-3 status. That is the one thing that lets us know your brain is being protected on a daily basis. And I will tell you right now, 90% of the people that we run the test on are significantly low. Not just kind of low, but low, meaning that the body can't protect itself adequately from the amount of inflammation that it has. My point here is this. There are data points that can really give us a starting point. So we don't have to be wondering, am I doing the right thing? There's very specific ways to measure, and then we don't have to guess. So it's kind of the old, let's test it, don't guess it. Then typically what we do, so if you get this lab set from us, we can email it to you anywhere in the country. We send you out to a local lab corp. Once you have it, you run the labs, we get the results usually somewhere within 4 to 10 days, depending on that particular lab. Once we have those lab results, you and I sit down, or maybe you work with one of my associates. You sit down, we go through this and create strategy so you can build health. And here's what I know. Here's my little personal story behind all of this. So many of you know right now, so not only am I a healthcare practitioner, I'm probably, I guess I can call myself a serial entrepreneur. Yes, we have our health clinic and all of the wonderful things. Chiropractic is where it began. Years later, I started studying Chinese medicine, became a certified acupuncturist. After that, my wife and I and some others spent some time over in India, started diving into Ayurvedic medicine. So a lot of tools for the tool belt. After that, I started to dive deeper and deeper into nutrition to the point where now I teach functional nutrition and functional medicine around the country. So I have a lot of things in my tool belt, I would say. And then I'm also a serial entrepreneur, meaning that we have multiple businesses. So without too much detail, we have an organic cafe, we have a dog food store, we have a farm, we have a real estate portfolio, all these things. And I'm not sharing any of that to impress you, but rather to impress upon you this. There's no chance I could have done all of that 10 years ago. And it's because I wasn't healthy enough. I did not have the energy to do it. So this thing that always shows up for people, the number one excuse people like to use in our country, but it's not adequate, it's not appropriate. The number one excuse people typically say why they don't do more or have more is time. Now, immediately we have to break time down and say that is a misnomer, that is a non-starting point. We have to dive a little bit deeper because the truth is that is the one consistency. Everybody has the exact same amount of time and you can't buy anymore, etc. So that being said, what is the next thing? And it comes down to energy. It's not about time management. It's about energy management. If you have sustained energy, you will be able to build. If you have health, energy, essentially you could define your health as having enough energy to heal your body, to help heal against cardiovascular disease, to help heal against cancers. That requires energy on a cellular level from your mitochondria. So all of these things, you hear everyone talk about nutrition and cold plunging and saunas and red light therapies. All of those are designed to functionally get your mitochondria to function better, to get more oxygen into these cells. And if you have more energy, you have more choices. So with that being said, that's how I want you to think of this conversation. What's more important, your health or your wealth? The answer is both. And now the question for you is, do you have a strategy? Have you collected the data and had that humbling moment? And sometimes it can be, especially, like you're sitting down and you're sharing with someone exactly where you are. And that's what labs are very personal to me. So sitting down with someone you trust and you kind of also respect enough to hold it tight to their chest and say, I get exactly where you are. And same thing with you, get a financial advisor. So listen, just like you probably should have multiple people on your health team, you probably should have multiple people on your financial team. I guess I have an accountant, I have a tax strategist, I have a financial person who buys and invests for our 401k and buys our stocks and all that kind of good stuff. Then also a financial planner, someone who is a health coach, but they're a financial coach. So you need a lot. And that's why I say being healthy and wealthy, both of them are going to require some level of inconvenience, a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit unfamiliar. But if you're willing to do that, I will tell you are always 100% worth it. So is your family, so are the friends and people that you love. So is your future. So I'm encouraging you to do both on a relentless pursuit of both. And with that being said, we're going to wrap it up right there. I appreciate you guys being here today. Keep doing the thing. Keep sharing it out. Keep spreading the love. And share this with someone that maybe they're headed down a path and they've yet to take that stand, that kind of draw that hard line in the sand for themselves to start doing something for their future. All right. Appreciate it. Love you all. Keep doing the thing. Keep raising the bar. Make sure we're taking deliberate action for your mind, for your body, overall wellness. That'd be awesome.